Towson, Baltimore, and WNST.net. We all know with the baseball slowness around here, I love reaching out, talking about other things. Got some rock and rollers coming to town, one of my favorite acts, and I collected the albums, and then I collected the cassettes, even the 8-tracks back in the day. Hard to believe it'll be 50 years next year for the Doobie Brothers. They are coming to the Modell Lyric, one of my favorite places, on April the 12th, and founder and guitar player legend, all that good stuff, Tom Johnston, joining us here from San Jose and Marin County, coming to Baltimore and bringing the band in. Always great to have the Doobies coming to town. Tom, thanks for making some time and joining us. I know you guys are out on the road and getting it going, and for you, I did some recent reading. You guys went back and sort of revisited some of the old songs and putting albums together, and I know I've talked to a lot of musicians lately. That's kind of a fun thing to do, to put some songs together maybe you haven't played in a number of years, right?
Yeah, you're probably referring to the shows at the Beacon Theater in New York.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, we did 2 nights, and both nights we did 2 albums, front to back, which is interesting in a lot of aspects. First of all, some of the songs we've never played live ever, and the other thing is you're doing them in the album sequence. So it's not the way you would normally do a live show, because selling an album and the way you sequence a song for songs, I should say, on the albums is done for a reason. So people listen a certain way, and this is supposed to accomplish things I don't know a lot about. But
well, as a guy who's listened to your albums,
what have you, and we did Toulouse Street and Captain Me all the way through. And I have to say, we put a lot of work into it, and it showed. It came off really, really well. And we did both albums, both nights. But it was a lot of work, and it was very rewarding. And it was all filmed and recorded, and is going to be out on a DVD, which we just finished mixing the sound on probably a week ago.
Yeah, people listen to sound so differently now, right, on iPods and in different devices. The way those albums, and look, I'm a child of the 70s and the 80s, right, so it was always drop the needle and listen through, or put the 8-track in, and maybe you would go to the 4th track, or you'd move around or whatever. Certainly with a cassette, you would never do that. So the order of the songs, specifically of that era, is sort of a way, like reading a book. You wouldn't read the book backwards or come into chapter 8. Music, we tend to do that maybe in the era of CDs, but in the era of your music and of that music, it really was sort of a through thing for the fans. I know maybe the artists never sat and listened on the bus to their own albums in order, but as a fan, that's the way we sort of consumed it, right?
Well, yeah, the way it was put out, and that totally makes sense, especially if you're listening to actual records and or 8-tracks or CDs or whatever, because that's the way the songs, as I said, are sequenced, and if you're going to play the whole album, that's what you're going to hear. So, yeah, it totally makes sense.
Going back and finding those songs and whipping them out for a show and then rehearsing them up, I guess it might be fascinating for you. There might have been a reason you didn't do them live all those years, right?
Well, I think one of the big interesting points is because some of the songs we've never, ever played, I mean, we recorded them, and that's the last time we saw them, and that's a long time ago. And to play them live, it's like you had to learn the song that you wrote, but you don't remember anything about it, and it was a real learning process, but it was fun. We enjoyed it. It's a challenge, and to get all the harmonies right and all the guitar parts right, and we have a percussionist and a sax player. We used horns on some of the songs, too, which was really cool, because a couple of the songs had horns when we recorded them, and then we put horns on a couple other songs that didn't, and it really made for a very cool addition to the whole thing.
Tom Johnston here, founding member of the Doobie Brothers. They're going to be at the Modell Lyric, and there's always magic at the Modell Lyric. We've had so many great shows here already this year in Mellencamp and Bonamassa and other shows. I went and saw a soul show there on the Valentine's night with the Manhattans, a beautiful theater. And, of course, the Doobie Brothers coming in on April the 12th. Tom Johnston here. Yeah, I want to talk to you about vocal harmonies, because when I think of your band, I think of the Doobies much like a lot of other bands. Maybe you went a little astray in the 70s, different members and stuff. 40 years later, everyone has had different lineups, different members. But when I think of the Doobie Brothers, I think of vocal harmonies. And I think one of the things that bothers me so much in the modern era are, first off, performances where the singers don't sing, beyond Dick Clark and American Bandstand and lip syncing. But you guys tried so hard, and maybe that was part of Crosby, Stills, and Nash and those bands that maybe came in that era, and the Eagles and the other bands that were contemporaries of yours. But vocal harmonies were such an important part. Now in the modern era, we have a machine for that. We can fix that, right?
Yeah, there's a lot of that going on.
Well, when you put the band together to do songs you hadn't done in 45 years, you said getting the vocal harmonies right. I think a lot of bands don't have to worry about that anymore, but I think the old school people still, you want to get it right when you're out on the road every night.
Well, it's the way we came up. It's what we do. It's what the band's about. Why change?
Well, some members come in and out, and I guess for your legacy and all that you do, when it says Doobie Brothers on the front, being a founding member all of these years, in the modern era, when you come out and play, doing a show, like I said, doing something different, not just the hits for people. When you put a show together, what are you looking for in 2019 when you come out in the spring and do a tour and come to Baltimore?
We are going to rehearse for 3 days before hitting the road, so we'll probably add some songs, delete some songs. We always do that every year when we go out. So the set list will probably be different from the last time somebody saw us. We might incorporate a couple of songs that we used at that Beacon show. You never know. There's one song that I'm not going to tell you about. I'm not telling anybody about it until it happens. I'd like to stick in. It's a cover. This is something I don't normally do, but I think it'd be really cool because we're going to end up at Jazz Fest in New Orleans, and I think it would be a gas to do a particular song that I'm thinking about. Well, but other than that, it's just, it's sharpening up, the chops, because we've been off the road since, as a band since the end of November, and we did a TV show thing for one day, one song on The Voice, and that was the middle of December. Other than that, we haven't played together since then, so you have to knock off all the rust and get everything back together, and it doesn't take that long, but it's just a good idea to do. And if you want to bring in some other songs and toss a couple of songs that you've been doing, that's a good time to do it.
What's the fun in doing this all these years later? Because I speak to so many musicians, and your music speaks to me, and it has, and I'm 50, and it's hard to believe the band will be 50 years old next year. But I think doing it all these years, most of you of that era never thought you'd be doing this at this point, right? There was no roadmap in 1974 for what a working band would look like in 2019, right?
No, I don't think there's a roadmap for anybody, not just us. I think anybody that has ever said out loud on an interview or anywhere else that I knew what I was going to be doing that day, that 50 years later I'd still be doing it, they're full of it.
Well, you have to pinch yourself to some degree, right?
Because too much stuff can happen.
Well, I would think everyone's parents, everyone's friends said, it's rock and roll. It's for a short time. It's not. This isn't a lifetime. It's not a vocation. It's a short-term job, right?
At the time you're doing it, it's a vocation. You never know what's going to happen, and the fact that we're still together doing this is amazing, but we still love it. If we didn't, we wouldn't be doing it. And I have to say that I think the biggest rush and what it's all about is the performing for people in front of a crowd, especially a crowd that really digs what you're doing. And that's pretty much what makes it all worthwhile. That and putting out new music and other projects like the Beacon Theater, and we're working on an EP we're going to put out in the next few months that'd be all brand new stuff nobody's heard before. And it's just keeping the evolution of the band going. It's what makes it interesting for everybody.
Well, hey, I really appreciate you taking a little time. We're looking forward to seeing you guys come to Baltimore in our town at the Modell Lyric. The Doobie Brothers will be in Baltimore on April the 12th. They're going to be downtown. Tom Johnston joining us here on the line as they're getting ready to come on in and do the China Grove and Long Train Run and all the great songs, Take Me in Your Arms, Blackwater, all the hits, and some other covers and some stuff that Tom's not going to let us in on until April 12th. So I will ask you to surprise us. We're looking forward to you coming to town and getting back out on the road. Thanks for making some time with us.
You bet. Thank you.
Love the Doobie Brothers. There he goes, Tom Johnston from the Doobie Brothers. You can find out all that they do out at their official site, and you can learn all about the show at model-lyric.com. It is April the 12th. Great set list coming up, and, of course, those shows from the Beacon Theater that we talked about earlier. Kind of cool. Some great stories out there about when bands put these albums together. And, I saw you two doing the Joshua Tree and Bruce doing Born to Run and all that good stuff, so I love when the bands put their albums together. Styx has done that, too. Nasty at WNST.net finds me. Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Snapchat, Instagram. Sometimes it's sports. Sometimes it's rock and roll. Big appreciation to Tom Johnston from the Doobie Brothers making a little time to talk to us before they come to town. We are WNST.net, AM 1570, and WNST, Towson, Baltimore. And we never stop talking Baltimore sports and rock and roll.